Hello, welcome to another stream about improving the grammar documentation in Python. See if anybody joins this time, otherwise it will be very quiet. So last time we got about halfway through compound statements, trying to add grammar generated by a tool, and I think we got as far as the sequence patterns in the big docs for the match statement, which pretty much has its own version of expression grammar. So sequence patterns we did last time, and I removed the old documentation. Let's see how that would look in the official docs. So compound statements, which one was that? Sequence patterns. So in the existing docs it looks like this. In the new docs it looks very similar. The sequence pattern is using this syntax used in the PEG input file that lines up these options or alternatives when they go on multiple lines. Otherwise it looks very similar to the old thing. The match statement is quite new, so the grammar docs actually match the grammar that Python uses quite nicely. Next up is mapping patterns, and here I have two of these. One is the new stuff and one is whatever was in the existing documentation. And my job now here is to look what can be improved in here. So I see that the mapping pattern can have a double star pattern or an items pattern, comma, double star pattern. This means that you can either have these two in this order separated by a comma, or only one of these two, but one of them is required. And maybe there is some better syntax to write that as. Like maybe we could add a symbol that would allow not having these repeated, but for now I think it's the best we can do. And there's double star pattern in the old docs as well, but the old docs don't express that these two things need to go in the same order. That's actually said here in the prose, which I guess it's fine if you're writing the docs by hand, but we really want to be a bit more precise. So this is the best we can do for now, and let's go on. There's class pattern here, and this is this is for classes. So we have name or adder spelled out as adder or name here. It's the same thing. And then we have positional patterns or positional patterns, comma. Positional patterns is again optional. So this is the same thing as we had before. Positional patterns, comma, and this pattern argument, this keyword patterns, I guess. And you can have either one, or you can have them both in this order separated by a comma, but you have to have at least one. Oh no, the whole thing is optional, so you don't need one, but you can't have them in the other order. And this is pretty much what the old docs say, except here the pattern arguments have their own entry. They're not inlined. Let's see how this looks in the grammar. Class pattern actually has 4 choices in the grammar itself. Well, that's okay. And our tool condensed that into this compact thing, which is fine. If we had better syntax for this this pattern where they want to be in the same order, or they're in the given order, then it would be more readable. But I guess it's fine as it is. I don't know if this name or adder would be good to have to document here. Maybe it would. What is adder? Adder is name or adder dot name. Okay. Okay, so this is just dot separated names. And I guess that's this is a good way of spelling it. We have positional patterns, we have keyword patterns. Probably it would be better to spell those out on a separate line. So let's do that. We're in class patterns now. I want to document keyword patterns here. So let's have Sphinx process that. And it's a bit more readable with keyword patterns out here. And we have one keyword pattern broken out here, but I don't think that's really necessary. Keyword patterns is comma separated list of these things. That's fine. This isn't really necessary. Right, I guess this is as good as we can get. I'll remove the old docs to like as a note to myself that this is already fine, and move on. Now we get to function definitions. This will be very fun. So let's see how this tool will handle function definition. Does it even have the same name in the new grammar? No, it does not. So I should search for def. Oh, there's function def. Okay. So function def has decorators on the front. Let's see how the tool will do this if we don't give any information to it. This is pretty big, but not as gnarly as I expected. So the function definition has optional decorators, an optional async, def name, it can have type parameters. What are type parameters? Oh, there's the square brackets. Right, that's fine. Those are probably documented somewhere else. And then we have this giant specification of what function parameters can look like. End of parameters, here's the return annotation. Colon, an optional new line. I see it's double optional here, and then a block. Alright, so this is actually in the grammar file we have this rule called params that got inlined, and it's apparently the same thing as parameters. So let's see if we tell the tool to split that out, make it more readable. Right, a bit more readable maybe. So there's the function definition, decorators, async def, name, type, params, blah blah blah, expression, new line. This optional new line seems a bit weird to me. Where's that coming from? There's func type comment. Func type comment can have a new line and a type comment. And I'm removing type comments because they aren't really parsed in the default mode. Well, anyway, what I can do here is add a simplification rule that will say if something's optional and the item inside is optional as well, then I'll get rid of the outer optional. So I just return self item here. That should get rid of one of these square brackets. That's better than before, but ideally I would get rid of this new line altogether. Let's see what the block is. The block can start with a new line. Oh, this is interesting. There can be a new line. It can be two new lines, two significant new lines here before an indent. Maybe I should just add a special case to ignore func type comment. And its extra new line token. That's probably the best thing to do. I'll leave it in my to-do list for later. one thing I'm figuring out is that it will probably be better if the tool is more configurable and lets humans say what they want. So let's go on to parameters. This is now where all the gnarly stuff is. So there's param no default, comma, param no default star, or param no default param with default. This is horrible. Let's see what the structure is. Right, so there's a bunch of stuff, and it always ends with this optional star etc. And maybe all of these could do with not being inlined. Are they actually inlined? They aren't inlined. No, they're spelled out. So slash no default. Oh, slash no default is inlined. Slash no default is inlined, but I guess let's see what the tool thinks of slash no default. So slash no default, well, as now defined as param no default plus, so that's this, parameters separated by, well, it's parameter with an optional comma. There's a plus here. What? How does that work? Param no default. Oh. Ah, I see. So this param no default can either be a parameter with a comma at the end, or it can be a parameter without the comma, but there's a look ahead here. And a look ahead is something my tool is ignoring, but in this case it's important. Because if this look ahead is not here, the type comment is being ignored always. That's actually not being parsed in the default mode. Then we are left with the parameter and an optional comma, which of course is wrong, because then you get well, param no default plus would mean it can just have parameters next to each other without the separating comma. So that's actually an important look ahead. And I guess what I need to do in this case is remove this. Remove this case that has a look ahead in it. But I don't think I can do that automatically. So in effect, I would like this param no default plus to instead say it's supposed to be a comma separated list of parameters. So param no default plus. this thing here. And I guess this is done here as an optimization. Because the type comment can come after the comma. Pesky type comment. I wonder what the best solution for this will be. Maybe it would be best to change the grammar in this case. Oh, hello, Blaze. Didn't hear you.
Hi, how are you? Sorry I'm late.
Great. Sorry I started without you. I didn't know if you were coming.
No, of course, please.
When did you join?
Just now.
Just now. Okay. So I looked into class patterns a bit, which are pretty nice, except for this pattern, which probably would like its own syntax. So this is you can have these two things in that order, but not in the other order, and you can leave either of them out.
Okay.
I think we saw that last week. Otherwise it looks pretty nice. But now here, function definition. Hang on, the function definition is a bit complicated. So we have decorators, which are optional. Async is optional. Then we have def, name. There can be type parameters, parameters in parentheses, the return expression, colon, block, and then there's this optional new line here, which is there because there is this func type comment. You can have a type comment after a function, which is actually removed in the normal parsing mode. So this is where you say def foo, and then you'd have type. This is a callable. That's something. So this is the alternate syntax for type annotations that's compatible with Python 2, and there's a mode in the Python parser that supports this, because originally...
Should that be a future top level? Oh, sorry.
Excuse me?
I wonder if that should be a future top level, like if we should pull that out as a separate example. You know how you move those, how some of them become top level nodes?
Yeah,
it's an alternate.
We should probably do that, but this is ignored in the normal parsing mode. In the normal parsing mode, you don't get type comment tokens at all. If I'm correct.
I see.
This just doesn't appear. Is that right? Let's try to tokenize that. TMP pi. yeah, this is a comment, and I don't know if tokenize has an option. No. So yeah, so this this becomes a normal comment, which is then removed when parsing. So anyway, one thing I did before that was this was in double square brackets, so it was like a optional. So I added the simplification rule. Whoa, this is a lot of code now. Here, if an optional includes another optional, then one of them is removed. But I guess we need better handling of the type comment. So since the type comment cannot actually appear as a token in the normal parsing mode, the handling the tool has currently, let's see, so currently it's ignored, so it's replaced by nothing. But I guess it would be better to handle it as a contradiction. Like, this cannot happen, so this entire option should just be removed from the grammar. And so here, so type comment itself becomes nothing. Let me try to implement that. That looks good. Let me put this double optional in Git. And I think we did something similar with invalid rules. Yeah, that's here. So simplify item for choices. If simplify item finds an invalid rule, then we return none. So I'm thinking that it would be better to handle this as a dedicated contradiction node. So we can have cannot happen. And now we handle so we won't need this simplify item in here, but whenever we have a sequence that cannot happen in it, so let's go to simplify subsequence, and if the first item of the subsequence, maybe let's do match. So yeah, this simplifies the start of a subsequence. When this happens, I want to replace the whole sequence. So that's in here. In the simplify, I go through all items in the sequence, and if I find this cannot happen, the whole sequence cannot happen, right? So I return it. Okay. Next up, if there's a type comment in here, I will return cannot happen. And if it starts with invalid, cannot happen either. Okay. Now this is not a proper class because it needs iteration. No, not a proper node because it needs iteration. So it should yield from nothing. It doesn't have inlined. Oh, maybe it shouldn't. It shouldn't be a node, but it should be this leaf here. And leaves already have an empty iteration, an empty inline and such. But they do have a value. Which I probably can't really get rid of in the data class. So let's do that. Okay, and it does need a format. There, so
Wow.
now you should not see this everywhere because not all the simplification rules are done. So what basically everything that has any kind of children should, when simplified, return this cannot happen, right? So here, if the separator is cannot happen, I return the separator. Same thing for the item. Maybe I can do that for each child actually. Now for decorator, if I have cannot happen, regardless of what's in it, I return that item. And then we have the sequences, and we have the choice, where if we have cannot happen, the alternative gets removed. I guess it's the same as this none. the simplify item was allowed to return none to support the older way of handling invalid rules. So I can remove this none here, hopefully. And now I see this got rid of the new line here. This got rid of the new line here, made some problems for the other rules. Oh yeah, that's right. Wrong logic on my part. Let's see here. So this got rid of the new line here, but it also got rid of everything for the param no default. Because this is proper logic for the invalid rules, but it's not proper logic for the type comment. If it's type comment, that should really be whatever it was before. Empty sequence, nothing. Which got us exactly nowhere. Everything works as before. But I kind of like this logic a bit better. So it's a bit more logic though. It's probably better to keep this invalid inside the choice. It's probably a bit safer because if I forget to do this in some simplification step, then you will see the original invalid rule instead of you should not see this. So let me do this. Let me add a new branch. Cannot happen. Add this commit to it. And get back. Now it's safe in my Git history. I can get back to it if I want. But that was a dead end. So we still have this new line here. And this does simplify to new line. So I guess the best thing to do here is to say that func type comment is or should be simplified to nothing, or should be just removed. And maybe I do need to allow this kind of customization for the tool. Like, not generate it exactly from this grammar. Or another option is to add some kind of annotations to the grammar itself. Anyway, so this new line is just extra here. It looks bad, but it doesn't make things incorrect. because this block will start with an indent, or with a new line indent, and I don't think you can have two new line tokens in a line. It'll be collapsed to one or something like that. So it doesn't hurt here. But this is worse. So the parameters here can be this giant expression. Wow. It's very complicated, and it's very complicated because of some optimization. And the problem here is this look-ahead token. You remember look-ahead tokens?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this came up last week.
So this says that the first part in here is parameters, like a list of parameters, and then a slash. And this list of parameters, so this is a plus, so there has to be at least one. So this can be a parameter, comma, and then this ignored thing, or it can be a parameter, and then we're looking for a close parenthesis, right? And I said before, and I think that's what Pablo told me, is that these are just used for optimization, and you should be able to remove them, but not in this case, because if you remove this, you get that the parameter can be either, or param default can be either a parameter followed by a comma, or a parameter not followed by a comma, which means that this list could just have the parameters next to each other with no separator at all. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so.
Right. So what do I do here? I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to say that param_no_default should just be a comma-separated list of parameters. And I don't know why the grammar doesn't do it that way. Right, so it's probably related to the type comments. So let's see. param_no_default. If I said this is comma type comment separated list of parameters, and let's see, param_no_default. Oh, the comma can only be missing if there's
if there's an and.
If there's closing parentheses.
Comma can only be missing if there's a
Ooh, this is complicated.
Wow.
This is complicated. And I see there's this interesting note. We don't support empty alternatives yet. So this looks like it's a limitation of the parser where you cannot have a choice that parses to nothing, right? So this alternative of the choice is just a look ahead, so it would match nothing. It would just check that a closing parenthesis follows. And apparently that's not supported by Python's parser generator. So you probably can't simplify this easily either.
So I guess it wouldn't be as simple as saying you either have a comma or you have a type comment or you have a closing parentheses.
Right. I mean, you could do like you have a parameter and then you have either this thing or that.
Or yeah.
Not that it would help our case too much now that I think about it. But what does this actually say? You can have slash no default, param no default, slash with default. This I guess this is a very complex way of saying basically that if you have a slash, it needs to come before or like the parameters with defaults need to come after the parameters with no defaults. And a slash needs to come before the star here. And this would actually probably be easier to draw as a railroad diagram.
Yeah.
But you can't really generate the good railroad diagrams from these docs, from this grammar. Dear. Yeah, this and yeah, the comma needs to be after every item in this list of parameters except
Closing parentheses.
the closing parentheses at the end. Yeah. It can be there, but well, it can be there. Yeah, it can be after every item, but can be missing at the end. That's a nice trick. And well, the current grammar is also quite complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's actually correct. Like, it doesn't specify that parameters with defaults need to come after the ones without defaults. I wonder if we need to preserve look-aheads to make any kind of sense in this. So let me do an experiment here. Let me add a new leaf class called positive lookahead and say that it formats as
okay.
Oh, it's not a leaf, it's a decorator. It has another node in it. So here, decorator, and now some kind of precedence. I don't want to think about that, so I'll just always put it in parentheses. Format the item in it, and then in here where I have positive look ahead, I include it, and I see positive look ahead has no attribute precedence. I need to put in precedence. Okay, so let's make the precedence the same as repeat and do this format for precedence thing. Right, so that actually puts in a lot of changes. I don't know if you can see this very well. So in compound statements, a function definition needs to start with these. That's just an optimization to let the parser know. If statement needs to start with if, and so on and so on. So these are definitely only there for optimization purposes. And I probably don't want to analyze this function definition rule to prove that it can only start with these. That's like too much like a parser class. Then what's here? So this new line needs to be followed by a new line indent. Oh, because there can only be a new line here if this block is not a single line thing, but it's actually an indented block. Okay, and here I get all the closing parentheses. Then, and this del targets needs to end with either semicolon or a new line. Which I don't really know why it's there. So let me do this. The function definition is the most gnarly part I've seen yet.
Yeah.
So I will make a note of it and leave it for later. It's not even correct as it is. So obviously I cannot just put in positive look ahead here because it would generate this nonsense there. So let's move that. And for function definition, I'll just make a note and come back to it later. And I'll think about it in the shower as well. I think what we need to do here is either document this by hand, saying that, you know, parameters without default values need to come before the ones with default values, and so on and so on and so on. Maybe it would actually work better as prose. Another option that I think might be interesting is to change the grammar generator to add some kind of notes there and say that this look ahead is important and this look ahead is just there for optimization. It can be ignored. Or maybe we could say that like in the grammar itself, we could say that func type comment cannot actually appear in the main in any default parse. And so on. But let's go on and let's first see if we need to handle any more look aheads.
Wasn't there also a negative look ahead?
Yes, there is also a
Oh,
negative
yeah,
look ahead.
there it is. That's right. Yeah. Positive and negative. Okay. Yeah.
Exclamation mark. Like the side number can be followed by plus or minus. I guess that's because it's that would make it a complex number. And this is again probably for optimization.
When you say optimization, you mean of the notation of the grammar or of the performance? Of the parser, okay.
Right. Oh, this one's important. The pattern capture target cannot be an underscore. And it cannot be a name followed by comma. And I think this is actually expressed in the other rules around this, but this just tells the parser to reject this alternative altogether. So it can move on to parse another way. Oh, there's a bunch of these. Nice one. Not needed, therefore speed up. So maybe this kind of a comment can actually be expressed as a note.
Yeah.
Like a machine readable note in the grammar file, where you just remove it.
So machine readable, you mean like have a
Yeah, I mean, I would
a
just
leaf.
go in the grammar file. There for speed up.
So you don't mean a doc string necessarily, but rather like a leaf or something.
No, I mean, I would go in here and say, for example, here, like something like that, and modify the generator to stash this somewhere I can look at it. But we'll see if something like that is needed, because if it's only needed for the functions, we can probably write that by hand instead of trying to generate it. Like the function parameters. Right, let's go on. Class definitions. This looks much more tame. Let's see if it actually is. So, class def. Do we actually have a class def rule now? Class underscore def it is called in the new grammar. Duplicate token description of start expression. So I need to add this thing in here. And let's see what the class definition starts looking like. Oops, not simple statement. Statements. Hey, a class definition is decorators class, name of the class, which is just an identifier, type parameters, inheritance. Yeah, inheritance is probably better as not inlined. And then we have the column block. Let's see. Oh, we don't. Oh, it's not called inheritance in the actual grammar, is it? Class def decorators, class def raw. It's called arguments.
Oh.
Whoa. Whoa. Okay. So this is arguments as in arguments you'd give to a function call, which is not as bad as defining functions. But it probably needs to be documented along with function calls. So let's leave that for later. And it... Oh, well, that's it. So inheritance here is broken out. It's not broken out in the actual grammar, so we can't really do much about that. I wonder if it would be good to name this part, and I don't know if that would have any effect on the speed of the grammar. I'll probably need to test that, so let's put that in the notes. But for now, this is good. This is inheritance and class name. I don't know if we have class names, a special rule here. No, it's just the name, just the token. So yeah, this is pretty much the same thing, except it has cute names for stuff. Those are not really needed. So I would say this is good, except this inheritance is probably a better name. Just name it arguments. So good for now. Coroutines. So this is async def, and here that's covered in function definitions. So there's this async here. So I want to remove this entirely and say in the pros that it's the grammar is the same as function definitions. Same for async for, with, and so on. Now we have type parameter lists, and this is a new feature, so hopefully the grammar will be similar. Come on. Hopefully the grammar will be similar to what's in the docs now. So let's see. Ooh. So we probably want to break this down and not inline that much. Type param sec is probably okay, but this type param might be better not inlined. Okay. So this is type params is this gather. This even has an optional trailing comma, which looks missing here. That's great. And the type param can be a type variable, which is identifier comma and comma expression. So this is this, or a type var tuple, which is star identifier, or a param spec, which is star identifier. And apparently this identifier was meant to be type var, really.
Oh.
Right. I don't know why type param bound here is not used in the other ones. It's a quirk of the grammar, I guess. This looks like it could be simplified. And maybe let's do that. So the simplification here would be in choice, recurrently check if the first item of all the alternatives matches, or the last item of all the alternatives matches. But we also have the simplify subsequence, where we could do the same thing and look at these common stars at the beginning, and that would probably mean that there would be this could be simplified to, you can have either a star or a double star or nothing. Then you need a name and then an optional expression, right? Does that make sense? I wonder why it's not done this way here. I guess it's because typefar and typefar2 param spec are good names. I don't really see what's good at the good, like what's going for them. Maybe they were added later and that's the reason. But this looks like, you know, it's right for simplification. So let's do that now. How big is the diff currently? We have class def, which was simple. We have the type param. Let's put this in Git so we know where we started.
I guess since the order is important, it's probably trying to go from more concrete to more abstract. Right? Typefar, type type params and then typefar spec.
Yeah.
Typefar tuple, that's what it is. Typefar tuple param spec.
Yeah, but the order doesn't really matter.
Oh, they're alternatives. Okay, I see. It doesn't matter.
Because name can't start with a star, and after this there needs to be a comma or an ending brace, which I guess an expression could. No, I don't think expression can contain a comma. Because if expression could contain a comma, you couldn't. If expression could contain a comma, you couldn't say like a colon x comma y. And if you put this in a type expression, then you probably mean a and y as the type arguments, and not xy as the expression. So I don't think expression can contain a comma. Whereas expression list can contain a comma, and you can have expression list in a tuple display or something like that. Right, so I don't think there's any overlap here, and the alternatives don't really matter. Or the order of alternatives. So, let's get rid of this. We'll have it in the git diff. And instead we have the simplify subsequence. And then simplify subsequence needs to, well, if the tail is long enough, if we have at least 2 items, then we get the first alt, right, and then we go through the other ones. And see, diff would be nice here. Where's my diff? Oh, am I only diffing? So we're comparing the first thing in that alternative to the first thing in the first alt, and unlike before where all the first items needed to match, here I just go as far as I can, comparing the first parts of the expression. And now remember, alternatives are lists of items. So here, if these don't match, then I'm done. And I probably need to keep track of how many I've processed. Right. And since I'm starting with the second one, that means if I break at the first iteration, nothing matches, right? So this is a trick that's not used very often, and that's using a for loop variable outside the loop. Right? Are you familiar with this one?
No, for some reason I assumed it wouldn't be available, but I guess
it is. So
I guess it's
all the for
the
loop
scope
does
is within the whole
set,
function. Yeah.
is assigned to these
Okay.
variables and run the body and assign to them again, run it again, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So this keeps the value from the most recent assignment.
From the most recent assignment. Okay.
So if we go here and the first item from this rest of the tail doesn't match, then n will be 0. So we skip this if. But otherwise, if at least one of these matched, then n will not be 0, and that means we've managed to simplify at least something. Right?
Okay.
And now I need to figure out what to replace the subsequence with. Right? So this means they all have so this is simplify subsequence. So first of all, this needs to be a list of alternatives. And what I'll be replacing this with is a sequence of the common element and then a choice of all the matching elements here. So this will be so that the alts are lists, so I need to wrap each one in a sequence. And that will be items 1 and on. And now here, because if I matched one of the other alts, like I have first alt as kind of separate as the thing I'm comparing to, and now if n is 1, that means I have matched this first one and then one of the next ones, if that makes sense. So yeah. I'm processing one more than the n here. Right, close it all up. And say that I've processed n plus 1 items, and they should be removed from the alternatives. Let's see if that works. I'd be very surprised if it does. No, it doesn't. Oh, it needs to be a list of lists too.
Wow.
And let's look at the diff that made. So if statement got expanded because we don't have the logic for the ending elements of the list, right? So this when the common the common part here is at the beginning, so this should have worked. Whoops. Yeah, it looks like the this is not working at all. This should have worked. So yeah, this is wrong. Sequence of the first zero item, the first alt. This looks okay. Well, get here at all? Yeah, looks like we do. Okay, so the first time we get to this, apparently there's this try, and the try is common here. And in this case, we should return, well, let's print that as well. Let's see. So, not getting the width now. So, I have non-terminal something dot name, or non-terminal something and the stuff, and that gets simplified to a sequence with the non-terminal as the first thing, and then we have the choice of either a sequence with the remaining part or another sequence with this remaining part, and that looks good. The two here says we processed 2 items, so this actually looks good. And what is wrong then? It looks like it was this part, and that worked. Wait, did I? So why does this if? Why did this if not match? It wasn't even considered. Something is wrong here.
How would we debug this?
Good question.
Is there like an off by 1 problem somewhere?
Maybe. So I'm trying to look at what matched and what didn't. I know this try somehow matched, but if did not. Except try looks like it didn't match either. So I guess I want to look at these alternatives now. That gives a lot of output, but I can look for try. guess we could use some debugger as well. But I wonder what would be the best way to make it stop at the right place. Wait, so let's look at the first thing it tries here. So it takes this try out, and the result is, yeah, sequence, that looks good. And I probably want to simplify this choice as soon as possible as well. So the result here is try and choice. Okay, this is weird. I want to look at this choice here. Probably a good idea to name it as well. I guess if I was better at a debugger, I could use it effectively. So this will give us this try, and maybe I can name the common item as well. That's this one. So from these two, the common item is the try. The remaining choice is this, which is correct, and those get wrapped in a sequence. I guess I don't have to wrap them in a sequence even, because I'm just looking for a list. So this looks good, but I wonder why it's not being used. Like, this result is what I want from the try. And the alternatives then are being used everywhere else. Interesting. So let's see, what is this try? That's called a try statement. So let me just do that. So I know where to stop. And we have this giant trace. Or I guess it did something. Let's look how try statement looks in the grammar. Oh, try statement has 3 alternatives here. Try colon blah blah blah, try colon blah blah, try colon blah blah blah. And my code ended up with 2 alternatives. So it successfully deduplicated these 2 tries, but not the rest. So yes, there is an off by 1 error somewhere, and that is because I'm not using this break correctly. Because if this goes through all of the alternatives, then n gets stuck with the value it had for the last item, as if there was the break. So this doesn't distinguish between going through all of the items except for the last one and going through them all. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
If we break at the last one, it's the same as if we went through them all. So another little used Python feature is for else. I don't know if you heard about that one. And it looks like that. Deduplicated things nicely.
Would we just treat the -1 differently? Or I guess that's kind of what you're doing.
So else only happens when there's no break in the for loop.
When there's no break.
So when we didn't see the break, then we consider n like 1 more than before. I wonder if this is the most elegant way to write it, but it might do the trick. So let's look at the diff now. In mapping pattern, this put in an extra optional comma here and here. Okay, that's probably because we don't have oh yeah, we're not handling the case where the last element of the expression is the same. But this got to exactly where we want it to be. Another change is in del target, where T primary got merged. Like these two rules, that's both start with T primary, got merged into one, which is what we want. And very interestingly, nothing else changed in the diff. So I'd call this a win.
Yeah.
So let's remove all these prints. And we need to do the same thing with the last element. So if the last item is the same, then the common item is that one. We take everything except for the last one, and this is now renaming choice common item. And did that do anything at all? So mapping pattern is now simplified. Where is this correct? It's not. I don't think this is correct. See the bug. Let's see what this did. So it somehow put items pattern, double star pattern in front. What? Let me look at the original here. Oh, the original's much more interesting. So the original's this mapping pattern thing. So there's a brace at the beginning and at the end. And now two of these start with items pattern and a comma, and then two of them end with double star pattern. Right. So everything in here is optional. That's this part. Now inside there's a choice between, you can either have items pattern comma or not, and then there's double star pattern, or you can have only items pattern. And after all of that, you can have the optional comma. So this is correct. And this one, I would say, is also correct. So this has the common optional comma at the end, and you can either have a double star pattern or an items pattern optionally followed by a double star pattern. So these two are equivalent, and the new one is shorter. And it's only shorter because it's not repeating this one, but this one, which happens to have a shorter name. So that's just an accident. But yeah, you can either write it like this or like that. So that's correct. As far as I can see, and that's good. And I guess it makes sense to first try merging the start and then try merging the end. That's like a more natural order in which to do things. Okay, then this one, parameters. What does that do? Whoa. So there's obviously a star etc at the end, but before that there's wrong a big thing here, or parameters with no default. Which is this thing. Yeah, so this parameter with default got merged in 3 of these cases, I guess. This one has a plus, not a star. Okay, so this one with a star got merged in 2 cases, which means that this big thing now got an OR parameter with no default, and this one was taken out of that parentheses. I don't think it's readable in either case, but this one is shorter and it looks correct.
Yeah.
So I call that a success. What's not so pretty is the code. So maybe there's a nicer way to write this. Maybe there's
With match cases?
match cases. What would you match here?
Let's see. Maybe the end thing?
Like this one?
Where where we're saying if n in the common, were we doing that? Excuse me. Yeah, that whole block there on line
No.
from there down to 281. I don't know. The sequence? I mean the no, maybe not. Okay.
Maybe this counting would be better without using this n loop variable outside and this for else. That's not very readable. So let's use a variable called number of alts with common start.
Oh, okay.
Start at 1 because the first one of course has a common start, and then we go through the rest. We don't have to keep track of n here. If they don't match, we break. Otherwise we add +1 here.
Okay.
Right, and then if we have more than 1, we do the logic. So no diff from that, that's great. And if I name this number of alts with common item, everywhere I can reuse that same thing in here, next. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a little less like speaking Python with a JavaScript accent.
Okay, and now I have these two blocks of code which are very, very similar, and their only difference is this index of the item I'm looking for, and it's on the other side of this column here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I could probably replace that whole thing
Oh,
with
wow.
a for loop. I don't know about good names for these, but when I'm looking at the start, the index of the item thing I'm looking for is 0, and this, if I'm not indexing, I have to write it as slice.
Okay.
From 1 to 1.
And the uppercase IDX and slice, is that...
I'm just writing that to know that I need to change those variable names.
Oh, okay. Right.
Or maybe it actually works well. It kind of reads like a C macro.
Yeah.
Right. Magic here, beware. I think that's the way to do this. And I need a colon at the end of for loop. And this is a -1. Right.
Wow. That's slick.
That didn't work. That did not work. That did not work because this result then needs to be the other way around. Right? Oh yeah, so that's the other thing that's different. And that still didn't work. Maybe I'm too far in. It's been 2 hours. Yeah, it's actually been 2 hours. I have 3 minutes left, so I'll end this at the top of the hour and maybe revert and retry.
Oh. Oh, right. That's just a diff.
Yes. So what? How did I leave out the 0 here? Looks like I copied something wrong or something like that. Yeah, that's there. Maybe I could do like ignore white space and the diff. So num alts with common item is 1. And this shouldn't be the slice. It should be all the tails except that the slice only comes in here. Replace too much. Now there's no diff in the generated file. So yeah. Right. Don't replace everything that matches the parameter here. Right, this looks a bit more compact. I don't know if it reads better. We'll still need some more comments, but I'm out of time for the day. Let's call it consolidate the code, not simplify because it's still not simple. But I'll continue next week.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for...
I'm going to find a way to see if I can understand this stuff a little bit better. Maybe
yeah, I'll need to go through it again, and probably it's better variable names and more comments. It's quite unreadable as it is, but at least it works. Awesome. Right, see you next week for more simplifications.
Cheers. Yeah.